All right, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
We've made it all the way to day 22. It's time for the Christmas horror. We're going to start today by talking about demons.
And the devil, as you can see in the intro.
Oh, yes. He's having a great time.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, you know that he used to be an angel.
Not true.
So, of course, he does still make snow angels.
He must be so excited when snow happens because he's so used to just insane heat, right?
Oh, yes, there is a way to tell how warm it is in hell, actually. So, a scientific way to tell how warm it can get in hell.
All right.
And it's usually around 444.5 degrees in hell at max. Degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. How do we know
That's
this?
hotter than the sun, though, is it?
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
there is a chemical background to this, because hell is described as a place that has lakes that are made of liquid sulfur. So, from a chemical point of view, at 445 degrees Celsius, sulfur turns into a gas. So it cannot be hotter than 444 degrees in hell, because otherwise they wouldn't have lakes made of liquid sulfur.
Oh. There's something new every
Great.
day.
I mean, none of us would survive that, but it's nice to know.
It's nice to know.
Yes. So let's get into the 12 days of Christmas. We've talked a lot about them, and we've talked about the Christmas Carol, we've talked about the time between the years, and this is specifically December 25th to January 6th. And people in old Europe believed that the sun stopped moving during that time, because it was a very, very dark time, and the sun went into a brief hibernation. So this was called the stagnant darkness. And in this stagnant darkness, the world was an ideal place to be overrun by demons and the devil, because they don't like light.
Makes sense.
And together with devils and demons, there were also strangers. So people thought if anyone is out in those conditions, in this very dangerous winter time, and is moving around in places where he is not known, where he doesn't have any relatives and friends, then that person must be the devil or a demon, because nobody would be so stupid. So they were extremely weary of strangers moving around during these days, and they wouldn't let them into the house, which could pose a problem if you were a stranger who was freezing to death outside in a winter storm. You simply had lost your way, and then people wouldn't let you in because they thought you were the devil.
I see.
Yes. So generally, strangers as a manifestation of evil forces, and people would only accept visitors who they knew. When we're talking about winter dangers, let me give you some examples. So, avalanches. You have the danger of freezing to death, snowstorms. Then you have accidents while felling trees, because that was also a winter work, aside from spinning wool, cutting trees. That was winter work, and if a tree falls onto you, that hurts. Not sure you're going to survive this. Yes, you can see the stranger here. So one with an ordinary hat and one with horns and with some blood pooling. So that is one danger, people who are simply not from your area who could be dangerous. And then there were also hungry predators. Wolves were a big problem during winter time, and the British Isles wolves went extinct around the year 1700. In continental Europe, people had to deal with them for much longer. You would usually say that around 1850 to 1900, wolves went extinct in some places, but not in all places. So in mountainous regions of Spain, France, and Italy, for example, or in the Balkans, you still had these big wolf packs. And of course, they would be especially hungry in winter. So you could run into a pack of hungry wolves. And you could be hungry too. Human starvation was also a danger of winter. And all of these winter dangers were attributed to evil forces roaming around. So you don't just have the saints, and you don't just have benevolent beings who are bringing you presents, but you also have really evil stuff going on. And in modern Christmas lore in North America, some people even include our friend, the Wendigo. Because the Wendigo is actually a symbol of human starvation in winter.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And could also be seen as a stranger, for example. So I wouldn't include him, but if you want to include Wendigo as a Christmas demon, that's perfectly fine. I mean, he does look a bit like the ordinary Christmas demons that exist in Europe with these horns, for example.
Definitely a dangerous stranger knocking your door, no doubt.
Yeah. Exactly. So he has these winter dangers combined. Absolutely possible. Not my cup of tea, but go ahead. You do you.
Right.
We'll get into some Christmas goblins now, and after that we have some legitimate Christmas demons, so we're starting small. And I need to write this down for you. So this is a Greek word. It's kalikantsaros. And the plural of that is kalikansaroi. And it's not originally Greek, but this is the Greek version of that word. So kalikansaroi are malevolent subterranean creatures that live in Southeast Europe, which means Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, Albania, Bosnia, and Cyprus. And they also exist in Turkish folklore because that name is most likely originally Turkish. It doesn't really fit any European language, and I'll translate that for you. They're common in areas where Orthodox Christians live, and even in Muslim areas in some cases. And they're incredibly stupid, so they have a combined IQ of about 2. I'll show you some.
I love it.
And in some of these pictures you see that they're trying to cut down a tree.
Yep.
That is what they do during the year. So they live underground and they're complete idiots, and they're trying to saw off the trunk of the world tree. So literally the tree that keeps the planet alive.
Wow.
And because they're so stupid, they don't realize that destroying the world would also mean their end. They're literally sawing off the branch they're sitting on.
Isn't that just mad?
It's a good thing that they're stupid. And they're described as very, very stupid. They do this all year, and usually they have almost succeeded taking the tree down around Christmas time. So that is the time when there's not much left, and they could cut down the tree if they stayed by the tree and continued their work. But when the sun stops, and we've talked about the sun stopping moving, it doesn't really, but people believe this. When the sun stops, they come out because that somehow calls them out of the underworld. And during the 12 days of Christmas, during this stagnant darkness, they take on a different job. So they forget about the tree. They completely forget about their stupid tree. And they see it as their main task to bring trouble to the mortals.
Just a couple of rascals. It's great.
Yeah, it's... Okay. When the sun starts moving again on January the 6th, they flee. And when they return to the tree, then the tree has healed itself and they have to start all over again. So you have this bunch of stupid subterranean goblins, and if only one of them stayed behind and finished the work, they could actually succeed. But they all run to the surface as soon as the sun stops.
Wow. Stupidest demons in existence. Amazing.
There are explanations that try to say that it's a Greek word that is most likely bullshit. The most fitting word is karakonjolos, and it's a Turkish word that means black werewolf or black vampire. So the second part, konjolos, means bloodsucker, and this can be a vampire or a werewolf, and kara means black. And a lot of modern words, so for example in Bulgarian and Serbian and Albanian versions, they use a very similar word. So the Bulgarian, Serbian, and Albanian word for this are almost the same as the Turkish one. And that's why the Greek one is most likely derived from the Turkish word. There are different descriptions of them. So they can be dwarfs, but they also can be very tall. They're usually humanoid, but they have long tails and huge heads. And they have a horrible body odor. So you can smell them before you see them.
Ew. Sounds about right.
They're often described as creatures of the night with very hairy black bodies, like almost like a black bear. And they have monkey arms and horse legs and goats or donkeys' ears. You can see that here in the pictures. Some of them have boar tusks. And they have burning red eyes and are mostly blind, which makes sense if they're subterranean creatures. They often have their tongues hanging out, and due to the boar tusk and the tongue hanging out, they always speak with a lisp. Their diet consists of frogs, worms, and other small uncooked animals, usually eaten alive. There are some countermeasurements you can take. So if you don't want them bothering you, the thing is that they can only count to 2. So the Greeks are very serious about this. If they accidentally say the number 3, it kills them immediately. So you can try to make them say the number 3. Because that is a holy number, and when they say it, they just drop dead. That is one thing. The other method, how to prevent them from coming into your house during those 12 days, is to put a pasta strainer on the doorstep, and I'm not making this up.
Why would that stop them?
Because they're like vampires, so vampires are kind of OCD. For example, one method to keep vampires out is to put something out that they have to collect. For example, to spill peas in your yard. And the vampires need to collect all the peas because they're so OCD. So that keeps them busy for a while. They can't walk past this. They have to collect it and put it back in a bowl. And the Kalakansaroi, they have a similar thing going on. So they will try to count the holes in the pasta strainer. But because they're idiots and only count to 2, they can't finish this task. So that keeps them busy until daylight comes, and they have to go back to the underworld.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
So next thing to buy is a pasta strainer, if you don't already.
And you'll never be messed with by demons, or at least stupid ones.
You put that in your front yard, and then you will have very interesting conversations with the neighbors, like, what is going on with that strainer?
The Calicanceroids. They're coming.
Yes. You may find yourself in a cozy white room when you say something like this.
Yeah, probably.
Let's
Sounds
try a different
cozy.
method. So, you remember St. Barbara's cannonballs, these sweets for St. Barbara's celebrations?
Yeah.
So the locomatis, these cannonballs with honey and so on, they can be used to keep the Calicanceroi away. And if you don't have locomatis, you can also use donuts, because donuts are very similar, so it's the same type of pastry. You throw these locomatis or sausages or donuts onto your roof, and you sing a specific magical carol. I don't have that carol, but you can ask Greek people in the neighborhood and they will be able to tell you. So the Calicanceroi will eat all the donuts, locomatis, and sausages on your roof, and then they will leave.
Okay. So they can be bribed in a weird way. Okay.
Yes, they're just full after that and they want to take a nap, so yeah.
Wow. These
Why
guys.
are they on the crazy? Why are they on the roof though? So they will usually try to enter your house through the chimney. So when you keep the chimney open for Santa or Befana, for example, then you also invite these demons to come into your house. So a sure way to keep them out is to keep the fire burning in the fireplace all night, and of course all day too. It shouldn't go out during the 12 days of Christmas. So the Calicanceroi will try to enter through the chimney, but when they see the fire down there, they will quickly crawl back and leave because they can't come in. And some people even burn specific Yule logs during these 12 days. So they go out and they cut down a tree and they bring home a really big Yule log that they use for 12 days straight. They never let the fire go out. And it also helps against other demons, so that is useful. What also happens in the Balkans and in Greece and Turkey is that people burn stinky old shoes or incense because the Calicanceroi don't like the smell.
Ugh, I wouldn't either. What the fuck? God. I mean, maybe incense, but like old stinky shoes? Oh my god.
Yes, and to make really sure, you can also draw a black cross with soot from the Yule log on your door on Christmas Eve on the 24th. That is also a good method.
That might be easier.
Yeah. Or just throw some donuts on the roof.
Yeah.
All right. So, in some areas in the Balkans, for example, they think that children born during the stagnant darkness, so during those 12 days of Christmas, are at risk of turning into one of these beings. So your kid's going to grow up, and when it becomes an adult, then it's going to turn into a stupid basement dweller who's trying to take down the tree of life.
Or a Calicanceros.
And they probably have Mountain Dew and Doritos down there. So, yeah. Video games. Okay, so this can happen when somebody becomes an adult, somebody who was born during the stagnant darkness. So to prevent this, you have to wrap the baby in straw and garlic, and you have to singe their little toenails with fire. That will prevent them from turning into a stupid goblin.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, I understand the garlic.
Yeah, singeing toenails when they're a baby.
Yeah.
That that's weird. That don't. What the fuck?
That is weird. Then again, you have people who are born on Saturdays, and it doesn't matter which Saturday, which month. And allegedly, people born on Saturdays can see the Kalikansaroy, and they can also talk to them. Weird fact.
People born on Saturdays.
Yeah, specifically people from that area. So, if you live in Serbia, for example, you were born on a Saturday, tell us whether you ever saw one.
Please, if you could see Calicancerous, please get in contact because what the fuck?
Absolutely.
I want to know more.
Yes. Tell us your customs. Tell us those great stories. But there is another explanation for people who are able to see them. So even if you're not born on a Saturday, the origin of these Kalikansaroy is thought to lie in the masquerades of Saturnalia. So you have a Greek version, you have a Roman version. You remember Saturnalia when people wear costumes and they switch roles and so on.
Yeah,
So
I remember.
you have these winter masquerades. And some of these people also dressed as animals. So some people would, for example, dress as donkeys or bulls or something like that, or even monkeys. And one theory about these goblins is that when people got drunk and saw other people dressed as animals, they may have been traumatized in this very drunk state, and they may not have been able to tell the difference between costumes and demons. So that could be an explanation why people thought that demons with animal attributes would appear around Christmas time, because they simply got too drunk or ate too many mushrooms during the Saturnalia celebration.
All comes back to consuming things that can, well, impair you. How about
Yes,
that? Creative
that
though.
is an
Creative.
explanation. All right. We'll go a little bit into what is happening outside of Greece. So in Serbia, they have a very peculiar situation with these Kalikansaroy. Because they behave like other mythical beings, and I'll explain what these beings are. So, first of all, Serbians call this stagnant darkness the unbaptized days. And people usually don't leave the house in the darkness. So, you can say the sun sets at about 4 p.m. during that time. And after that, they don't leave the house anymore. Not even if their dog has to pee.
Wow.
Because if the Kalikansaroy catch someone in the darkness during these days, they'll jump on his back and they'll force the person to carry them wherever they want to go. So they kind of hijack you. And they will only leave you alone when they hear a rooster's crowing. And that's usually the next morning.
Right.
And this is exactly what happens in German mythology with a being that is called the Aufhocker. And that word means to sit on someone, because it jumps on your back. So the the thing that mounts you, that doesn't just happen during Christmas time, but in German mythology, this can happen around the year. That when you take a hike in the woods and you pass by some spooky stones, for example, then this little forest demon can jump at you and sit on you, and it will only go away when it hears the roosters the next morning. So that is an overlap with a completely different mythology. And there is another thing in Serbia. So the only people who leave their houses during those dark hours of the 12 days of Christmas are usually cheating men. because they can't stay away from their girlfriends. And the Kalikantzaroi, they will sit on the front door, like on top of the front door. They usually have these little roofs when you come out of the house that you don't get wet immediately. So they will sit there, and when these husbands come home after they've cheated on their wives, then the Kalikantzaroi will jump at them and claw at them. So they're not completely evil.
No, that's a nice thing they do. They're like one nice thing.
I think this is the same as telling the children that your livestock can speak during Christmas Eve. So you're trying to get the children out of the house so you can put out the presents, and you'll make the children take care of the animals on Christmas Eve. And in this case, people are probably telling this story of the Kalikantzaroi who punish philandering husbands to prevent people from cheating. At least during Christmas time.
Yeah. it makes sense, but it's only a one-time protection period, not the entire year.
These stupid goblins will get you if you cheat during Christmas time.
Just during this window. Any other time of year, you can get away with it. But this one window, demon's gonna get you.
Okay. Bulgarians think that the Kalikantzaroi are shapeshifters who can turn into various animals. So this is a little bit like North American lore of the Wendigo, for example, or the
Skinwalker.
What is it called? The Skinwalker. Sorry, yeah. So the Wendigo can also turn into different things to disguise itself, and you have this even more commonly with skinwalkers in the southwest of the United States. And they're also a little bit like trolls in this case. So Bulgarians think they're shapeshifters, but they also think that they live in caves and rivers and in abandoned buildings. So that bridge troll is probably related to them.
Interesting.
And then we have the Albanians. The Albanians think that Kalikantzaroi are undead monsters who drag their hellish chains across the snow and breathe deadly winter air at people. So similar to what Bertha can do to you, like the winter wind, is a result of these goblins in Albania, and in Bavaria it's a result of Bertha. And in some pictures, Albanians show them wearing armor or chainmail made of iron. So they're somehow connected to iron. And that is unusual because people in the old days actually believed that iron can't be jinxed. So that was basically bulletproof against magic.
I see.
But Albanians think that these goblins have a lot of iron, so I don't know why. Doesn't make sense. Okay, that's the Kalikantzaroi. Do you want to ask anything about them?
No. They're certainly a weird little fun thing, which only, like you said, pertains to the weird 12-day period, the stagnant darkness time. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to know that they're mostly the same, but there are little differences between the countries. Is it mainly just a European-based thing?
Well, yes, it's Southeast Europe and it's a little bit of Turkey, so they also exist in Turkey.
But are there any other kind of similar demons in other countries, perhaps outside of Europe? You know?
Not that I know of. So usually things trying to destroy the tree of life, you have that in Germanic mythology. For example, there is a dragon that is called Nidhogg, and that sits by the roots of the tree, and it chews on the roots, so the tree dies after a while. And you also have some very evil deer.
Evil deer's cool. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Any other demons we need to talk about?
Yes, the Perchten, so Bertha's followers. And we'll
Oh.
stick to the name Bertha again. So Perchten are simply her entourage. Okay, those are winter spirits, and they can look really, really spooky. They can appear between November and January, so it's not that much connected to Christmas, but to that winter time. And there are processions in southern Germany, and I think also in Switzerland. There in Austria. So Germany and Austria, I know of, and Switzerland, I think they have them too. And again, there are two types. You have the handsome ones and the ugly ones. So I told you that we're going back to this. So they're also wearing costumes with huge cowbells. And they're trying to chase away winter with noise.
I see.
And it's similar to other celebrations of that kind, similar to Halloween and Christmas and Carnival, so the heathen versions of these festivities. They're very noisy. You have these costume processions of demonic entities and heathen gods and wild and domesticated animals. And you even have a Roman tradition that is very similar. Similar festivities have existed since 500 BC in the Mediterranean area, for example. And again, in Germanic lore, they're connected to the wild hunt. So it's not just the gods riding around, but it's also a bunch of wild animals and domesticated animals. Because you need hounds for your hunt. And the more modern activities of these winter spirits have been documented since the 11th century. The church tried to ban them. This is becoming a pattern, as you can see. But from the 19th century on, they were openly celebrated. So again, it's a situation where the church says, this is heathen, we don't want this. But people are so attached to it that they just continue doing it until the church loses that power and they can openly do it. These are groups of demons, and I will show you the demons. This is what they look like. So very spooky. If you have small children in the house, don't let them watch this. So these costumes are... Yeah, they're really heavy and elaborate, and they're usually about 6 to 7 feet tall in these costumes. Let me show you one of the heads. So they also make giant heads. Yeah, like this one. And the people who actually celebrate this, they don't appreciate when you use that as a Halloween costume, for example. So this is connected to their winter customs, and they don't want it used for Hollywood movies or other celebrations and that kind of stuff, because they take this seriously, and we'll get into why they take it seriously. One thing these followers of Bertha do is they help her supervise the work, the cleanliness, and the food rules in winter. So there's not just her, but there are also these demons. And now it's starting to make a little bit more sense that she is said to disembowel bad kids. So she probably doesn't do that on her own, but she has her followers who help her out. And they always appear in groups. The ugly ones come out at night in large groups. So what you see here are the ugly ones. They're not like in Switzerland, like the Clauses, who wear basically half a fir tree.
Yeah.
They look like legitimate monsters. And I will show you the handsome ones next. They walk around during the day and they bless people, and they're dressed in a similar fashion as the handsome Clauses. They also have these giant so-called bonnets. And those are heavy. And they also have lights in them. So let me show you that. As you can tell, it looks a bit like a church window. Who are the bell ringers, and what do they do, and why do they carry these enormous hats? January the 5th, you remember that is also the day when Befana is on her way. And it's the day before the Kalikansaroi have to go back to hell. On that day, the bell ringers, so the handsome followers of Bertha, they fight the powers of darkness. They are the powers of light in this case, so the handsome ones are the powers of light, the ugly ones are the powers of darkness, and they represent good and evil, and they face off in an epic showdown, and that often happens on a frozen lake. That is an Austrian tradition. The Altaussee, that is one of the lakes where this happens regularly. And do I have any pictures of the other one? No, I only have pictures of the fight. So this is happening on the Altaussee. Yeah.
Look like they're supposed to be brooms.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like people, and it doesn't look like demons. But there's more. So, yeah, this is the Ebensee. And as you can tell, they even take pictures with Santa.
Oh, yeah.
It's all in good fun. So let me give you some more pictures. But it's very exhausting too. For the final showdown of that winter, they also move through pedestrian precincts, as you can see. The ugly ones and the handsome ones, both of them are running around in pedestrian precincts and villages and so on. So this is something that is mainly happening in northwest Austria on the border to Germany. And in Germany you have similar customs, but the main thing is happening in Austria. They start at 5 p.m. on January the 5th. And the handsome ones fight the ugly ones with their illuminated costumes and cowbells. That is why it's called the Day of the Bell Ringers. And this takes until midnight, so they're at it for about 7 hours. That's why I said it's exhausting, because they have these heavy costumes and they have to ring the bells for 7 hours. And then the handsome ones, which also represent the switch from winter to spring, they chase away the ugly ones.
I see.
They can't curse at each other, so you would assume that maybe the ugly ones would shout something at the handsome ones, or vice versa. But while they're in the costumes and masks, they're not allowed to speak. So as soon as you put that on, you can't even say goodbye to your wife.
Ah, okay, so you're like really dedicated to the bit.
Yes, it's a taboo, and if you break it, then bad things will happen. Again, it's Christmas magic, but dark magic.
Yeah, it's fair. Makes sense.
That is day 22.
How about that? The Demon Day down. Day 22. Thank you to the YouTube and Patreon members who've been supporting this channel so far. This has been a fantastic effort. Thank you so much. I couldn't do any of this without your support. Really. I really can't. Thank you. Patreon now has exclusive ad-free videos. I know, quite a cool benefit, I gotta say. Can't do it on YouTube, sadly, just on Patreon only. It's a whole thing. There are many ways to support the channel, but becoming a member is probably one of the best ones. Support us today.